Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to watch or listen to the meeting may do so via video conference. Login information is on the agenda for the meeting on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be available, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Topsfield website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. That said, I'm delighted to call this meeting of the Planning Board, February 4th, 2026, to order. And you have to listen to one more announcement from me. This meeting is being recorded via Zoom in the event that the connection is lost at any time during the meeting. This meeting is also being recorded by Topsfield Cable TV and will be available on the Topsfield website Cable Video On Demand page. Is there anyone else present who wishes to record the meeting? No? Okay, well, we can proceed with the first item on the agenda, which is in fact a lot line change at 73 Parsonage Lane and 18 Orchard Lane. And we have Letitia here from the Moore and Cameron Group. So Letitia, take it away.
Thank you. So I'll share my screen now. Can you see my screen? Can you see the screen? Yeah.
No.
Nice. So for the record, my name is Leticia. I'm a project engineer with the Moore and Cameron Group, 66 Elm Street, Danvers, Massachusetts. And I'm here tonight representing the applicants, Mark and Kara Swenson. So we're just presenting the A&R plan. So lot 1 is currently undeveloped, and we got a permit for this lot, I think last year through the planning board for a stormwater permit. And lot 2, it's a single family home. And the two owners, they agreed upon themselves to swap lot lines. So this parcel A here highlighted in orange, it's going to be conveyed to lot 1. And then the purple area, it's now from lot 2 and it's going to be, sorry, it's from lot 1 and it's going to be conveyed to lot 2. So orange goes here, purple goes here. So this change is not going to impact any zoning requirements. It's not changing frontage. It does comply with the lot irregularity. I believe that's what it's called. So based on that, we believe that the plan, it is a approval not required. And we're seeking approval and endorsement from the planning board tonight.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, for the benefit of members who may not have experienced anything like this before, lot line changes are very common. They don't require public hearings or anything like that. And as long as no nonconformities are being created, then we do it. It's as simple as that. Does anyone have any questions?
Is that for the pumpkins?
Yeah.
That's my
So
question.
so this lot right here, they do have the pumpkins, and it was kind of like encroaching a little bit on the lot 1. So,
Yeah,
the
awesome.
owners just talked among themselves and they decided to just do the lot swap.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, would someone care to make a motion that we approve these changes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, wonderful, thank you. Okay, roll call. Jenny?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Zilly?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, great, thank you. Wonderful.
Thank
Good
you
luck
so
with
much.
all of this.
Thanks for your time. Yeah. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you could just stop sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, the next item of business is the continuation of the public hearing for the stormwater permit for 249 Rowley Bridge Road. My understanding is that our reviewing engineer has received everything that he needs now, and he's done a site walk, but he was not able to get this all reviewed in time for our meeting tonight. So I believe there's been a formal request for a continuation.
Yes.
Yeah. And that would be to our March meeting,
March 4th.
March 4th. So would someone make a motion to continue this to our meeting of March 4th?
Happy to make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Zilly. Would like to second it.
I will second it.
And Greg seconding. Okay, so roll call. Zilly,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Great. Okay, our next business is something really quite interesting. I mean, I have been involved in this project for probably 20 years, at one point or another, because the issue has come up repeatedly. Um, we have a number of streets that were never formally accepted by the town. And as a result, we do not receive Chapter 90 money for those streets because only accepted streets are eligible for Chapter 90 money. The other issue, of course, is that the town is not supposed to be doing any work on private property. And so the issue of plowing and maintenance and all of that has arisen. And how does one possibly tell someone living on a street, paying taxes that, oh, by the way, we can't fix your potholes because this is not an accepted street. So on and off for a very long time, different groups have tried to work through this. And Gary Wilds and his folk have spent an incredible amount of time working through all of the details. And we're left with I think it's 8 streets. And then we have our Ruby and Pearl that we have that we've worked on. So all of these streets and that packet that you got that was full of all of the plans was to demonstrate that we do have the required meets and bounds for all of these streets, and that's what's required for a select board to lay out the streets is the meets and bounds. And then it all goes to town meeting for the town to accept the streets. So, did you all go through the packet very carefully to look at every street? I'm not hearing a resounding yes.
I did
Of
go.
course.
I looked through it. Yeah.
Of course. Anyway, some of, it's been a real production to do this because we had to find, or Gary and his crew had to find plans that showed meets and bounds. And this took, particularly for the older ones where there never was a subdivision or the street was, for whatever reason, the subdivision went belly up and nothing was ever done. So they did a great job and found plans that had all of the dimensions. Everything was checked by Cobbleman and Page, who has been walking everyone through all of the details. And so one piece of the process is that the select board referred this whole thing to us so that the planning board can make a recommendation to the select board that they, in fact, lay out these streets. Okay, any questions about what's going on here?
I have a question. This is John Monaco, Martha.
Oh, hi, John. How are you?
Fine. Question I have is, does that in accepting the street, does the town accept all the utilities that are in the street?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Good.
so if there's a self-constructed water line or drainage or something, are they still responsible for it?
Oh, no, no. Oh, we do accept the water mains that we put in, and that sort of thing. So basically these streets become town property and we are always responsible for the town water pipes. The gas lines, I think, belong to the gas company.
Okay.
There are,
I think you're misunderstanding my question. When they accept the street, if there's existing utilities in the street, does a town take over those utilities?
um, I don't think we would be taking over the gas or the electrical. Because those are privately owned, by the gas and the electric company.
Okay, but if there's any water in the street,
Yeah, the
that
water
could be
mains,
that could be private water line using town water.
I am not aware of anything
Okay.
like that. But I think that I can't answer your question definitely, but my sense is that the town actually puts in those water lines and that are responsible for them. What we get is the right, we will ultimately get the right to maintain, to do the storm drains, to do repairs, to do the plowing, all of the stuff that the DPW takes care of.
Thank you.
Okay.
Martha, can I just add some
Oh, yes, please,
context?
Jenny.
Yeah.
Rescue me. Yeah.
Well, so on roads like this that are not yet town ways and have not been retained as, its own separate lot by a developer, are owned by the abutters to the middle part of the road. And so if, for example, somebody has put some sort of, drainage structure into the roadway that's, technically on their property, this is going to become a legal question probably for town council to help us sort that out. I think any road that we accept will be taken subject to existing easements of record. So, the utilities that are owned by the gas company or town water, that would just be absorbed within our underlying fee interest. But the precise question here, I think it's not something we as a planning board can really answer. What we're here to do is to decide if the roads meet our standards for accepting of a public way, and then we make a recommendation to the select board, and then the select board, working with town council, will need to make sure that the meets and bounds are accurate and that they know what interest in property that they're actually acquiring. But I could see the potential for, somebody having some sort of nuisance on a public way because there's some unknown, drainage structure in there. It could
Right.
happen.
Yeah, oh, it could. And I do believe, I do know that after, and the schedule that I have seen is that after town meeting, well, first of all of the people on all of the streets are being invited to the select board, for the laying out. And then after town meeting, they'll be starting the process of acquiring the rights from the people who own to the center of the road. So that's what's going to be happening.
Okay. Well, yeah, so that was my 2 cents. And also just, that
Right,
that's just,
exactly.
my independent knowledge of how this works generally. But this is sort of outside the wheelhouse of the planning board. The planning board is just here to make a recommendation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I met with Lynn and I met a number of times with the people working on this project, and I think they did a great job on finding all of the documentation that they needed, and some of it came from subdivision plans, some of it came from water when they had to do surveys of the streets to put in water mains. So they did have the proper meets and bounds, by a surveyor, stamped by an engineer and all of that. So credit is due to the people who worked so hard in getting this all together. Um, any other questions? Jenny, would you like to add anything more? I mean, you're absolutely right. They're just asking us for a recommendation. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's part of the required process. Nothing more. That's just, also I suggest you go visit the select board and then also come to the town meeting if there's more questions as an abutter, you know.
Right, exactly. Okay, now, we had prepared for us by K&P a proper recommendation document, that we're supposed to send to the select board. Lynn, do you want to read that?
Sure. And just to note, Martha, it was your group who actually wrote the letter and they tweaked it. So
Oh, that's
you,
right.
your group did the
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So the motion is that the planning board recommend to the select board that the following 10 roads be laid out and presented for acceptance as public ways at Topsfield's 2026 annual town meeting. Those roads include Aaron Drive, Beach Place, Deer Run, Evergreen Lane, Hickory Street, Pearl Way, Pemberton Road, Pheasant Lane, Ruby Circle, and School Avenue.
Okay, now would someone make that motion?
I'm in the making motions mood
Very
tonight,
good.
apparently, so I will be happy to make that motion.
Thank you, Zilly. And someone would like to second it?
I'd be happy to second it.
Thank you. Okay, it's a
Like
silly
you could sing
Greg.
tonight, it's a Zillion Greg theme. I
Okay.
do have a
roll
question
call.
before we vote. Should we add, is Jenny had mentioned just before we vote, like just the discussion, mentioned the whole like subject to existing easements of record. Is
No,
that something
it's not.
for plan? That's something for select board, not us, correct?
I
Okay.
believe that
Correct.
that's
Wanted to be
something for
sure.
them to deal with
Great.
when they get around to that phase.
Okay. thanks.
Okay, a vote on this, Jenny?
Aye.
Okay, Greg,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Zilly,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Great. Okay, now to the zoning bylaw modifications, which I think are in pretty good shape. I sent out a parking one today. Um, you will recall at our joint meeting that Kevin raised the issue of parking, that he wanted to do something at the, on the town, at the town meeting, addressing our parking bylaw. And the issues seem to be that that there was a lack of clarity, or that it was confusing, or something along those lines. And so this was his concern. He talked with Bob Moriarty and me after our meeting with the select board over budget, and he reiterated his concerns about clarity, and that developers want, to, have a clear process, for having the parking spaces reduced, as is often the case in the business village. And we spent some time discussing that after the meeting. So I I sat down after that meeting and produced a bylaw that's based in large, addressing just those concerns. And if you look at it, it basically expands upon what our existing bylaw says about how the zoning board can choose to waive numbers of parking spaces, or accept alternative arrangements. And so I sent what I wrote, which was from Beverly, almost word for word from Beverly, to Bob, and Bob, added his comments, and Kevin had asked that I meet with him to go over this all. So I did on Tuesday. I showed him it, and I said, okay, are we going to go forward with this? Is this what you want? And as of this afternoon, he said he still needs more time to review. He says that he thinks it's okay, but he wants more time to review it. So, do you guys want to take a look at it? Because if we have any changes that we would, excuse me, if we have any changes that we want to make, we should get them to Kevin. For his, so that he can review to see if they fit in with what he would want us to do. So Lynn, can you pull up the parking?
It's up. Can
It's
you
up.
see it?
Oh, yeah, it's
It's
very,
up.
yes, I can see it. It's very small for me to see. I'll bring it. Okay.
The,
All of the, you'll see that the bold italic is all new. Okay.
I
So,
need to go. I apologize. I am just reading this now, and Martha, it looks great. Number one, thank you for doing that.
oh, thank you.
It concerns me that the town administrator needs more time to review after actually dumping this in our laps, or I should say in your lap just a few days ago.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think,
I wanted that on the record.
thank you. Well, I think the question here is, and we've always been very cautious about making bylaw changes, and that we've always been very careful. And I think that Kevin is, looking at this to see whether it makes it more difficult for people, or do we just leave it as it is, with this kind of vague approach. So I'm not sure, but we are going to have to get some kind of response, because we're going to have to be setting up public hearings for the zoning articles.
Right.
And so this can't be a last minute, night before a town meeting that we decide to put this in, or the minute that it goes off to the printer. So
And this
anyway,
is, Martha, this is based on the Beverly model?
yeah, it's basically, parking bylaws are all very similar.
Yeah.
Many of them are just like ours. That is, here's the grid, and that the permitting authority can reduce the number of parking spaces if it feels that it's appropriate. And that's basically what ours says right now. Now,
This whole first section looks great. It's understandable. It's a little legalese, but I can understand it, so that's a good thing.
well, you see, right now, ours says that it should be located on the premises.
Right.
Or off-site within 500 feet of the premises, and that the user has a legal right to use for parking. Now that always becomes an issue because, gee, do people have the legal right to use, parking spaces on the street? Do people have the legal right to use municipal parking, building parking lots and all of that? Uh, and
Right.
then,
But this specifies on-street parking immediately in front of the premises.
right,
So I think, which is great because that eliminates that I think that vagueness.
it's for those who allow on-street parking, and not everyone does, quite a few people don't, but for those who do, it's always confined to the 2 or 3 spaces that are directly in front of the building. And some even say on the same side of the street, So for a downtown, it makes great sense because most of the properties in the downtown never went through site plan review and never had to, demonstrate that they had parking, or they did have some parking lot. Only the ones that have been through site plan review more recently have actually accommodated their parking, on their own lots. So what this does is immediately in front of the premises. The second one makes it clear that it's on a privately owned site, and that the property owner has the legal right to use that. Now, we have one example of that at the Commons, that the Commons rent space from the Emerson Center, from the church for the Emerson Center lot. And so they have the legal right to use it. And then the public parking lot is if it's located within 500 feet, and the criteria are also how regularly does that parking lot have capacity to hold more cars?
Right.
And so we have typically allowed For instance, the Institution for Savings extended the Park Street parking lot in order to provide more public parking spaces to be used by their employees. So we have examples of all of this that have happened in the past. They're just not articulated, in the bylaw. And then we have the methods for reducing the required number of spaces. One is shared parking and mixed-use developments. So that's where it's clear that you don't make two parties each provide all of the spaces that their uses need, but if their demand periods or the time of the demand on the parking are different enough, then they can share the parking lot. And we do have one example of that that's way before my time, but my understanding is that two of the buildings on Main Street, one where the cutting room is, and then the Thompson property next door, that an arrangement of that sort was made way back when they were, doing site plan review. So that's for mixed use. And then for a specific use, and the zoning board does this regularly for a specific use, if it can be demonstrated that an establishment needs a lesser number of parking spaces, which they frequently do, then that is a reason for the zoning board to be able to grant a reduction. So this just simply explains what we do, and what we have been doing.
Yeah, that was gonna just be my comment is I think this is just putting in writing what I believe has been the practice. Is that right?
Okay, Zilly, I couldn't quite hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I haven't had a ton of experience, but my understanding is this is really just putting in writing what's already being done.
Exactly. Exactly. And putting it in the same kind of language as Beverly, which, deals with a lot more parking issues and, business development
Yeah.
than we do. So anyway, so if anyone has any problems with this or would like to change anything, please feel free, to.
I only had one question just at the very top. And this is probably not, I don't know, but where it just says off-street parking areas, off-street parking spaces shall be the first one lists on-street parking as your like the first on the premises or on the street. So I just didn't, to me, that just like right away my brain went, wait, like a little hiccup. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just defining, it's using off-street parking as an identifier, and it's just repeating it. Is that what you're talking about in the
Well, but
paragraph?
then in the first one, it allows on-street parking if it's immediately in front of the premises.
Okay.
So it's probably I don't know. It's just one, it doesn't make for the execution of it. I don't think it matters, but it just threw me off because it almost seems contradictory.
Okay, fair enough. I think that can be fixed easily.
Okay.
Yeah, we can work on a fix for that.
That was my only note. Otherwise, I'm good with it.
Okay, good. So,
I'm
it's
good with
really
it.
amazing what some communities do. And I would never suggest this for Topsfield, but you should know that some communities will allow people to reduce the number of parking spaces that they're required to provide if they pay into a municipal parking fund that is used to build municipal parking lots.
Well, great. Let's do a multi-story parking garage
Yeah.
somewhere in town.
Yeah, well, I suspect that in places that really do have huge problems with parking,
Yeah.
that I mean, I don't know how effective it is, but I saw that in a few communities' bylaws, and I thought nothing like buying your way out of the requirement. Yeah. And there are some that are really just the kind of thing that I can imagine would create chaos. That, okay, the zoning board can reduce parking spaces, the number of parking spaces, if they consult with all of the local property owners and business owners and citizens and take all of their commentary into consideration. And I just can't imagine how you would manage something like that.
Yeah.
Parking is a very emotional subject. And as soon as you mention parking, everyone gets wild. There isn't enough of it, So anyway, just, some comments based on my research. Okay, well,
Martha, it looks like Sheila raised her hand,
oh, Sheila,
but she has to
can you
unmute.
unmute?
Oh, hello.
Hi there.
Sorry to interrupt. I just came to the meeting for something to do. I have COVID. I didn't come with an agenda, but now I have a question.
Okay.
I'm fascinated by this conversation. Um, so as somebody who just goes downtown and likes to park on the street, to Zillie's question, if you say off-street parking or the street immediately in front of the premises, if I wanted to park in front of the pizza place and go to the post office, could the pizza place say that that was their space?
No.
No.
Okay.
No, that's not how it works. It's that when a business needs site plan review or a special permit, they're required to demonstrate under our bylaw, and everyone else, every other community does this too, that they have adequate parking for what their use is.
Uh-huh.
And so when the many communities that allow maybe two spaces in front of the building, the two spaces are available for the building if they're open.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks.
But it's not that there's a reserved sign saying
Okay.
this is for tee
Because
off
that
or
would be a big
for
change.
Zoom. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sheila, would you like yourself listed in the minutes? I can only see you as Sheila. Would you like your
Sure.
last name included?
King,
What's your last
K-I-N-G. Yeah,
name? Okay,
K-I-N-G.
thank you.
Great. Okay, so we'll wait to hear from Kevin. We had the conference and event facility. Now, the definition that went out today was rewritten by Bob. And you'll see it's clearer than what we were trying to do. I will tell you that there is a very strong feeling that this is premature, that this can be considered an obstacle to development, that this is tightening up restrictions when we're, trying to attract businesses. And so there is very strong feeling that this should not go through this year. It is not that it should never go through, but that it requires more study and, more consideration. So I'm reporting to you,
Yeah, Martha, like 100 people contacted you with concern? I mean, how many
no,
people and
no.
who are they?
Kevin was at our joint meeting and
Mhm.
he became aware of this at the joint meeting and was quite alarmed at the joint meeting with the zoning board that we were thinking about this. Subsequently, he has talked to me about it. Uh, and um, as I say, I said I would talk with the board. I explained that this is not something brand new, that we've talked about this in previous years, and that we never did anything with it. But I do think that it could be a very controversial item to bring forward this year, that as we are more than happy to be responsive, that if someone wants to study this in a formal way, um, fine, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, it's, I'd like to hear from the rest of you as to how you feel about this.
Well,
There we go. I think I said this at the joint meeting. I liked the inclusion of the business. I'm just, and again, I apologize. I'm a little ill prepared for tonight's meeting only because I'm in production week
Okay.
on a show, and so I barely made tonight. Um,
Well, let me
I,
explain what's happened, what Bob did here. We have the general definition
yeah,
of conference and event facility that is essentially what we have had, but we now limit in residential areas. There's a limitation so that in residential areas it's an historic building. And that amplified music and so on is allowed only if it meets decibel standards. So this has been kind of turned around from saying it's in an historic building and oh, by the way, it can be in any building in the business district, but rather there's a general description, and the only limitation is that in residential districts it's in an historic building. So that's the change that Bob made.
okay. Um, you know, I hate to sound like the old guy in the room, but I don't think there's any reason to wait on this. Um, I'm interested in protecting the residents of the town, and I think refining the definition of conference and event facilities that helps to mitigate the how should I say, the difficulties that um, two uh, the two facilities have already shown. I think it moves us in the right direction. I question who would be studying this and
Who would be?
what those qualifications would be of
Oh
who
yeah, I'm not sure. I think that
yeah,
no one's even thought that through yet.
well,
I think one of the issues, and I mean, I don't know that this is the case. I think part of the problem is that we have an application that went in for a tent and then it went out for a tent and is likely at some point to come back in for a tent. And there is something to be said that a project got started with the understanding that they could get a conference and event facility permit for a tent, and then if we change it so that they can't, this is jeopardizing whatever business model they had or whatever expectations or assumptions they had in coming through. So I do see that there could be this year, if we were to do it this year, there could be some legal implications. Jenny would know better than I do about that. And there is something to be said about, um, well, I don't know, if someone sets off thinking that he can get a permit, and then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from underneath him because we changed the bylaws, how fair is that?
well, I hear that and I do agree with that. I'm assuming you're referring to alfalfa.
Yes,
Yes.
I am.
And I would agree if I had drafted a business plan for a facility and purchased the property based on the current zoning and then had that changed, that would not be fair.
Yeah.
Is there a legal phrasing that we could include?
Grandfather type of clause.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but their application is they currently do not have an application in, do they?
No,
No.
but they could get one.
Yeah,
Right.
I've already mentioned that, but the reason that they removed the application was that they had to do a site plan for stormwater, and they cannot figure out where the tent could go, so they can't include it on the stormwater plan. So having them insisting that they go and figure out a tent location and all of that and go through everything that they went through before the zoning board previously, they're
Well,
it's going to
but
tie up everything all over again.
in their application, can they specify that their intention is to try to locate a tent facility as part of this? However, that is not currently there. They currently cannot put an exact location in place due to pending stormwater conditions. And
I,
that way
I,
they get their permit application in, which
well,
then
I think,
grandfathers it.
and Jenny, you probably know better than I do here. Um, if if you know that someone is planning to do something, or some developer has come along and has said, "Oh, I have this plan," what are the legal ramifications for a town changing their zoning bylaws in response to that?
I mean, this happens actually all the time.
Oh dear.
You know, and I wouldn't actually characterize what you're doing here as doing that. I mean, it's not a response to a potential application. It's a correction of what was intended in the first place.
Yeah, it's definitely not a response to any application.
It's being perceived as a response to the
Well,
alfalfa.
yeah, the timing for sure.
Well,
And
I'm sorry, people need to grow up a little bit.
can I understand better? Because I still do, I don't like parts of this personally. Um, and I'm trying to better understand. You guys keep talking about the original intent. And you mentioned that this has come up in years past. And forgive me because I'm blaming my age with my brain sometimes not retaining certain details of past conversations. We may have gone over some of this before. But as
No,
far as that
it
original
wasn't
intent,
just this past year. I mean, the first
yeah.
time it came up was during COVID, when there was a proposal to use Fairview Farm as a conference and event facility for an outdoor concert venue.
Mhm.
And so the issue arose again, zoning and planning, saying, well, wait a second, how do you use an outdoor field, as a conference and event facility when it was supposed to be a preservation bylaw to protect historic structures and historic buildings. So there was some discussion, but we kind of said, oh well, we really have to think about this some more, and so it didn't go anywhere. In the very beginning, when the bylaw was first, presented or proposed, there was a question about whether it should be allowed in all districts or only in business districts. And there was quite a bit of discussion about that. But the reason it ended up being in all districts by special permit is that it was supposed to be for historic structures, and historic structures are in all the different districts.
Right.
So it
When
wasn't.
was the original bylaw put in?
I
Put in?
think this may have been 2004 or 2005.
Because the original doesn't ever even mention historic structures.
No, no, the
So I
intent.
think my concern is like, if this was passed written this way, I wasn't around. I just showed up, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. Had infants at that time and missed this, right? But I if that was the intent back then, it should have been written then. So if you're trying to correct 20 years later something that was, I don't know, that I have a little bit of difficulty around that piece. However, if this is something different, because yeah, I don't fully understand why we need to update it, because actually the parts that I have a problem with are in the newest version, the sentence that requires it to be a historic building. Like, now you're telling me that was the intent. I can appreciate that. And we talked about the other bylaws we talked about last year that were specific to historic. I don't remember what that one was called. But in this
Foolish.
case,
That's the historic redevelopment.
okay.
This,
In this
this
case,
one-
I just feel like if it's a large enough property, why does it have to be a historic building? And then the amplified music also bothers me if it's abiding by the adjacent noise level for the neighbors, why is that required? And the couple of examples we've given, you know, residents spoke up and owners of properties and zoning board responded. I just
They've
feel like
been-
this is imposing a restriction for a reason that I can't see and that I don't understand.
Yeah, well, the original, this bylaw was based on the Ipswich Great Estates bylaw, which was specifically historic structures and large properties and all of that.
I think that's where I'm getting confused between this and the other one that you just
Yeah,
named.
the other one is still in the works, but
Yeah.
this is this use would be allowed in an historic redevelopment project. Conference and event facility use would be allowed. But as I say, I am inclined not to try and push this forward this year. There are enough questions. I'm not, but I really want to hear whether other people, I know Steve would like to go forward with it. Zilly has some problems with it. Jenny, what do you think about this?
I mean, I don't feel like, going to battle at town meeting with, limited information.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we can regroup, and see. Greg, what do you think? I mean, it might not, by the way, it might not even make it onto the warrant if it's so controversial.
Martha, I'm inclined to go forward with it. I think there has been enough, there has been enough inputs from, just the abutters and, the people nearby. I think this is a reasonable approach to allowing this type of use with some limitations. And obviously, indoors, there's no limitations. There could be events and all that. It's really just making sure that in residential areas and that where there's a lot of families or people outside that it's not going to be too obtrusive, or intrusive. So I'd be prepared to support moving this forward if there's a majority of our board that wishes to do it.
Okay,
I have
thank
a
you.
question about process a little bit though, just in that comment, Gregor, that you just made about abutters. Because when you speak of abutters, you're speaking of a specific address that people are abutting. This is a bylaw that is for the entire town. So I'm not understanding if it's our role as a planning board to implement bylaws based on specific abutters to specific project as opposed to the town. And again, like my experience on the master planning committee where we had overwhelming support for making Topsfield at least more friendly to develop, not developers, but to businesses that foster activity and community, which is something this could be. So that's where I just feel, and this is from somebody who grew up.
Right.
I've told this story before. Like I grew up here. I'm so proud of the agricultural history of Topsfield, and I do so want to preserve what we can. And so this would be thoughtfully done. This to me just feels restrictive, and it feels responsive to a specific few versus the town.
Yeah,
Right.
I think what
Why do
Greg
you-
means,
If I could just respond to that, Zilly, my sort of definition of abutters is really residential areas in earshot of something, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not limiting it just to the properties that connect to that property. So I'm happy to go on record. I think I've been consistently as pro business and pro development in this town as anyone. It's just that I think there is a difference between, a clear residential area versus, the business districts. So, and I think this does allows certain amounts of flexibility given, limiting it to historic properties, of which there's quite a few, where, those can be used for business purposes. It's just that, no matter what we do, there's still going, there's going to be, 400 families within earshot if we have a concert going on there. It's, I just think there needs to be some kind of boundary. So, but I appreciate your pointing out those issues.
And Zilly, I appreciate them too, but I do think that one has to be very careful about not having a really negative impact on citizens who have moved here in search of a certain kind of life, a peaceful, quiet, outdoors, nature kind of life. And then they wake up to discover that right next door, a tent has gone up and people are running concerts and selling tickets, that there needs to be some concern, I think, for the citizens, who could be impacted. And that development is great, but it's got to be good development in the right place that doesn't end up detracting from the quality of life for people,
And animals.
and animals. Yeah, all of
Yeah.
that.
I'd be interested in looking at other ways of doing that aren't quite this. There's parts of this that I'm just
Well,
still.
my big issue is that we have always, and you may call me coward, but it's not cowardice, it's strategic planning. That we have always been careful that when we go to town meeting, we are not taking something that is really controversial, that is going to have, all kinds of upheaval. Uh, because it doesn't help our larger purpose of bringing sensible, good, zoning articles to town meeting. And so given the backlash that I have heard about this, I would be very reluctant, to push the issue. I don't want to argue with the select board about it. I don't want to argue with our town administrator about it. I don't want to argue with the people who want to have all kinds of development. I want us to go, if we go forward with something that is good and that makes sense and is fair. And I think Sheila wants to say something. Sheila?
I do. Um, I actually have a question about the Willowdale estate. Uh, if the way this is written, a limitation would be placed on amplified music outdoors?
No, we have no authority over the Willowdale estate. They don't hold a permit from us. They operate under state regulations, and they are required simply to meet the state noise standards.
Ah, because I remember when that was just going to be a place where people would bike and stay in a B&B, and I always wondered how that got turned into a wedding venue.
Right. The state has a program for historic properties that they own, and there are two there. There's the Lamson House, which is near the entrance, and then there's the Willowdale Estate itself.
Yeah.
The state has a program where they lease to qualified operators or individuals these historic properties. They're long-term leases. The people who are doing the leasing have to do the renovations and the repairs and keep up with everything.
Yep.
And they don't come under the local town's jurisdiction in terms
Okay.
of zoning bylaws or anything like that.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Um, so what do we think?
I'm 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 a little confused, Zilly, where you think in this language it targets a specific site.
Oh, I didn't mean it's targeting. I feel like it's responding to specific permits recently with Connemara and Fairview and Alfalfa, the abutters of those, as opposed to,
Well,
the general town.
then you should also include Witch Hill when that first came on board,
Yeah.
we had, a butter actually sold their property and moved out of town when that
Have there
became an
been
event,
have there
conference
been
and event
problems or
facility.
complaints there since?
The Witch Hill
No.
situation, or better known as Pierce Farm.
Pierce Farm.
Or it
Um,
seems to be the Evermore?
No, there haven't been, except for the immediate abutter that sold their
Yeah.
property and moved away
Hmm.
because
and that was, yeah, and
they've
that
been
was
very,
because, oh, I'm sorry, Steve. Steve,
I'm, I'm saying that the
Hmm.
operators of Witch Hill have been very responsive to the community
Right.
surrounding them.
Hmm.
yeah, they're actually building a greenhouse, a large greenhouse, for outdoor ceremonies, outdoor music, outdoor everything.
Hmm.
The original issue that Steve's referring to is that the original conference and event facility permit was issued on the basis that it was going to be used as a training center
Right.
for business people. And
Oh.
it didn't work out that the businesses would prefer to send the experts, to bring their experts to their location rather than sending all of their employees to Topsfield. So the owner shifted and started advertising it as a wedding venue. And as soon as the first few loud weddings took place, because the barn was hardly filled or finished. It was
Right.
the neighbors complained and actually went to the zoning board to try and get the permit taken away, because they said it was bait and switch, and that they would never have approved of something like that. And so they sold the house and they left because it was ongoing.
Hmm.
And I'm told that there has been at least one other instance of that, as up at English Commons, people selling. So I don't know, but this is being perceived as too restrictive, or that it's restricting economic development. I don't see how it's restricting all economic development, but whatever. Uh, I agree with Jenny. We don't want bloodshed on town meeting floor, if we ever get there.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Martha that if it gets contentious at town meeting, that is just a disaster and that doesn't help anybody.
No, and we have been very careful, to preserve basically the sort of integrity of the board, so to speak. That we've been very careful not to drag very contentious issues into town meeting. That we go to town meeting when we have things nicely wrapped up, that we've got wide agreement that these are good things to do. So
It's
that's
actually
my take on
nice,
it.
kind of nice to hear you explain that thoughtfulness behind it, because I will say, like, having not been on the planning board until recently, typically when things come up and it's planning board approved, as a voter, I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. I know they already did. I know they didn't bring this to us without having already
Now,
vetted
it
it, you
wasn't
know.
it wasn't always that way. A very long time ago, there were serious problems, all kinds of uproar and upset. One thing that we initiated to avoid that going forward was our joint meetings with the zoning board, so that we get their input. We do widely, circulate ideas,
Mhm.
where possible, with community members, groups, and we have enough instinct ourselves to know what is likely to be difficult. So, just for the sake of, you know, for the planning board to retain, its credibility and, the faith of, I think, the community, we don't create huge problems at town meeting. At least that's my position, always has been.
Well, as far as
But
having the faith of the community, I also just want to go on record to say that, like, while I'm not in favor of this, how it's presented, and I'm in favor of your thoughts of maybe not going for it this year either way, if we do revisit it, like, I do appreciate that there are processes now for residents to be involved in projects that might create challenges for neighbors. And, I don't want to sound like somebody who's like, I don't like it, it's not business friendly. Like, I want residents to also feel supported.
Yeah.
That's always existed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, there may be other ways of dealing with this that would not be as contentious. That is, we might be offering something else um, that, if we were to shrink the conference and event facility down to its original intent, we might offer another use that could be more broadly applied in all kinds of buildings all throughout the
Mhm.
business districts. So that's something that I've been thinking about,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. You mentioned that before,
near
entertainment.
formulating it for this year.
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn, we've added 50%, the accessory building, based on the joint meeting. We've got that in there, right?
Sure. The same thing that was presented at the joint meeting.
Right. Okay, anything else we need to do? Okay, um, well, I guess we'll have to start scheduling public hearings.
Well, you have to make a final decision on the parking, so you know what you're making the hearing on.
Well, exactly. So we'll get from Kevin, his thoughts. I mean, I have no problem going forward with this parking. I mean, I think it makes it much clearer. And if what we need is clarity in the parking process,
Agreed.
Would it be
it's,
helpful to do like a subject to Kevin's review kind of vote tonight so that we don't have to, I don't know, wait?
well, I don't think we have to vote on all of these right now.
Oh, gotcha.
But
Just agreement.
unless you want to, we still have March, for Kevin, but we do have to schedule dates for the public hearings. Um, and maybe Lynn can help us figure out, which dates. And we would do them all in the same. And before we advertise, we have to know whether we're reviewing parking.
I see.
Anyone?
So, so let Kevin know that we're ready to go on this, and we need his input by the March meeting.
Yeah.
And then if he has no input or there are no changes by the March meeting, we're good to go. If there are changes, that presents a problem.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Then we'll have to postpone it until 2027.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the parking changes are great. I mean, I think that, they make sense. They clarify what the process is. There's nothing, no one can say, oh, well, you use this, you were showing favoritism to this group and you won't show it to my group,
Mhm.
because it's all laid out there very, carefully. And so, I mean, if Kevin says, no, I don't want to do anything, well, okay, but I don't know. If after all, the idea came from him, was his idea,
If he does come back and say, don't do anything, I I really like what you put together, Martha.
Oh,
It makes
well,
it
Bob
makes
was very
great
happy.
sense. So I would just like say if I would like to know a reason if
Yeah,
the administrator said, no, no, I don't want to do this. I would want to know why.
right. Okay. I think we've wrapped this up, haven't we? Yes, okay. I don't think we have minutes, right?
We do.
Oh, you do.
January 6th.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it was the other one that you said.
It was the
Okay.
second one. It's a very long meeting, so those minutes aren't done, but the January 7th.
Okay. Are there any comments?
I wasn't there, so it was helpful for me to review them.
Well, you can still vote on them, you know.
Yes, yeah, I know.
So, okay. Any changes? Any edits? As usual, they're excellent.
I'll make a motion to approve them since to finish off the meeting with
Thank you. Do
another
we have a
motion.
second? Is Greg going to second this one?
Greg,
Jenny did.
Greg
Oh, no,
second.
Jenny.
Jenny did.
Okay.
No,
all in favor?
I would love to second it.
Yeah, I think we now have
Sorry.
3 seconds.
Too
Yeah.
late.
Okay, roll call. Greg,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
Zilly,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Great. Okay. Now, I'm sure everyone would just love to stay around, but it is time for a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion,
There you
Madam
go.
Chair.
And,
I second.
and Greg seconds. Okay, all in favor. Zilly,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Greg, and I vote aye.